is going to take approximately an hour or so. The first part will be the presentation, which is going to last us about 30 to 35 minutes or under, and we will then accept questions from you. So we are glad here to have our speaker, Giacomo Rambaldi from CTA, and also representing the Unmanned Aerial Systems community. And we are happy to have Giacomo here on e-agriculture to present this webinar. We have sent out his brief. He is a senior program coordinator with ICT at CTA, and he has a number of years of experience in Africa, more than 36 years, Latin America, Asia, and Pacific, and he is working so much on ICTs, especially for drones. So without further ado, Giacomo, I'll give you the space to speak now. Just a quick housekeeping for all of us. We will allow the speaker to present the topic. You can chat in your questions, which will be answered only after the presenter has finished speaking. So we will only give you the opportunity to chat, and we will read out these questions to Giacomo to answer your questions. For now, Giacomo, you have our attention.
Hello, good morning to everybody. I've scrolled down the list of people who are online. I recognize some names. Hello to the friends, and also some people I don't know. So I hope to be able to interact with you after this event. So my presentation is going to focus on the experience we had over the past 3 years in implementing a project focusing on Africa and specifically on the introduction of drone technology for agriculture. So I work for CTA, for the Technical Center for Agriculture and Rural Cooperation, which is a joint institution of EU and African, Caribbean, Pacific group of states. Fundamentally, CTA operates within 79 states, Sub-Saharan Africa, the Caribbean, and the Pacific, as I said. It was founded in 1984, and currently our focus is on information and communication for agriculture and rural development. We are funded by the European Commission, but increasingly also by other funding agencies. We have currently reviewed our areas of intervention, which are youth, digitalization, and climate. And when it comes to the youth, we promote youth entrepreneurship. And here, what we are doing in the domain of drones for agriculture falls within this remit. Job creation, enterprise development, access to business through ICT solution. And this is one of the lenses through which you should look at what I'm going to talk about. The other core area is digitalization, digitalization in agriculture to increase productivity and profitability along the value chains. And as you all know, climate change is going to be one of the major challenges for humanity in the years to come. And we try to promote climate smart agriculture and the use of technologies of ICTs also to support this. Just the basics for those few who are maybe new to drone technology. You will see a lot of acronyms floating around. The drones, okay, the correct name is Unmanned Aerial Vehicle, okay, and you will also see that these systems are also termed as UAS, Unmanned Aerial Systems, but this is including the aircraft, the control station, the pilot, the software, and all that, and the sensor, okay? Because a drone itself can be just a small aircraft without any sensor. So the term UAS is more comprehensive than UAV. And then in the legal domain, national civil aviation authorities, they use the acronym RPAS, which stands for Remotely Piloted Aircraft System. What are the components? So you have a pilot who has a control station, and then you have different types of crafts, of aircrafts, which can be winged, which can be copters, and also a mix, the VTOL crafts, which can act as a copter and as a winged aircraft at the same time, meaning that they can depart going up vertically and then horizontally. And obviously then you need sensors of different types to capture images which are imagery which is fit for a specific purpose, and then very powerful computers and detailed software to analyze the images. Powerful computers, I mean gaming grade computers, because the amounts of data which needs to be processed are huge. The application I'm going to go through quickly. Counting plants, counting trees is something which is done currently. Looking at crop health through NDVI interpreted images, you can identify stress components. And this is another image which shows a pivot system. And for example, on the right, you can see different colors, and red signifies that the plants in this area are more stressed than the one on the green part. And this needs the input of an agronomist going locally to see whether it is due to waterlogging, probably in this case, I suppose it's waterlogging, or other causes. And here you have other types of images, and on the right you can see the red parts, which signifies that these plots are stressed, probably by a specific factor. When it comes to more advanced interpretation of imagery captured with drones, there are specific algorithms which are developed, and in this particular case, the need for nitrogen of the crop is estimated, and this can lead to location-specific applications of nitrogen. There are some research work done in Europe which showed that the increase in return was due to savings in terms of crop, in terms of nitrogen application. While maintaining the same yield, farmers saved in terms of nitrogen application because they were able to do it very precisely on a grid, on a 20 centimeter grid. These maps can be loaded on tractors which have GPS and the needed hardware and software to control the application of the fertilizers on a very specific locations. And then you can generate elevation models, very high resolution models. So this is very useful when it comes to development of irrigation scheme or looking at drainage systems. And then through these digital elevation models, one can also reproduce the landscape in and navigate the landscape virtually in 3D models. The latest and growing type of application is the use of drones to spray crops. This is something which has been done in Japan for quite some time, and in China. There are initial tests in Europe and also in Africa, but the main experience in this domain comes from China and from Japan. And then, okay, drones can be used to inspect fixed asset, to document damage on crops and farm infrastructure. This is relevant for the insurance sector and also for farmers to claim damage and to document damage. To assess the functionality of irrigation and drainage systems, to monitor the impact of treatment and test in the context of agricultural research, to assess biomass of grazing areas, to monitor livestock movement and grazing patterns, to count stock, and to support farmers' credit worthiness. This is something we have done in Uganda. Farmers apply for credit with banks, and they have to fill in forms. And what we have done, we assisted the farmers in producing what we called enhanced dossiers with aerial imagery and crop diagnostic uh, produced through drone services. And these dossiers apparently are very welcome by the lending institutions because they provide georeferenced information about the farm and the status of the crops and so on and so forth. Well, in these 3 years of project implementation, we have gathered feedback, regular feedback from our partners, and identified also through widespread research and also through the networks we animate challenges which are the drone operators are facing in Africa. First of all, the absence of regulations governing the use of drones. But this is changing, but still it is quite a challenge in countries where there are no regulations. And in some countries there are regulations, but these regulations are not enabling, but disabling, because the requirements are very, very strict, very expensive to meet. And so these regulations are not incentivizing young startups to come up and set up business. Another obvious limitation is the lack of schools where people can obtain pilot licenses for drones. There are a few in South Africa. Now, as part of the consortium of operators, we are supporting. There is an idea now to set up a school in Benin for that, but still there is lack of this kind of facilities throughout the continent. And more importantly, even if you get a license in South Africa or a pilot license in South Africa or in France or in the UK and so on, there is no guarantee that that pilot license is recognized across borders. This happens also in Europe, for example, where a pilot who got a license in Italy cannot automatically fly in France. And this is an issue which needs to be looked at. In Europe, they're trying to harmonize the regulations throughout the whole European Union, but in Africa, there is a lot of work still to be done on that. Another issue is serving small-scale farmers. And what we have seen is that the only possibility to have a rentable system as a drone operator when dealing with small-scale farmers is when small-scale farmers grow the same crop in contiguous areas. And by nature of some crops like tea, like rice, these crops are usually grown in the same area in contiguous plots. But crops which are grown intercropped and so on are very difficult to 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 interpret, and also very costly. So and the drone operator has to fly a certain number of hectares per day to justify the cost of displacement, the cost of mobilization, and so on. There is still, when it comes to smallholders, there is still lack of evidence of positive return to investment. And for this purpose, we have launched 4 research projects to look into this specific issue. And obviously, proving that there is a return to investment will then facilitate the adoption and convincing people to adopt or ask for the services. Based on a survey we have done, people would like to get more information, the public would like to get more information about the technology, especially among the Francophone people. Another challenge is the slow and expensive access to the internet when it comes to elaborating and analyzing data in the cloud. And that is one of the challenges the UAV operators are facing to scale up. said that we have now examples of operators which were able to grow in their business in size. When it comes to regulations, the issue is that small drones, even a drone weighing 800 grams, is in many countries is considered as a full-fledged aircraft. Of course, there are these devices are occupying the airspace, and which previously was occupied mainly by passengers or cargo aircrafts, and the national civil aviation authorities are extremely concerned about these small devices flying right and left close to airports and so on, putting the air traffic, the passenger planes and so on at risk. So the regulations which are now increasingly in place in African countries are meant to provide guidance on how to use these devices. And this is a map which shows where regulations are in place. I recently updated this map because we had Senegal, Benin adopting regulation in the last few months. Burkina Faso is working on regulation. I understand also Mozambique and so on. In collaboration with other agencies, we have fed the database. If you want to see what regulation apply to your country, you can go to this droneregulations.info website, and you select your country and you will see what the current regulations are. This is a Wikipedia style site. So if you find that the information is not updated, you can apply for becoming a contributor, and you can contribute to maintaining the country page updated. Said that, what are the opportunities? We did, first of all, we thought, and many thought, okay, drones are associated with military operation. People may be reluctant to accept the technology and so on. So we did quite an extensive survey last year. We sent out questionnaires to about 11,000 people, got 15% return. And surprisingly, we had about 80% of the respondents who were considering drone technology for agriculture positively. They were favorable for the introduction of the technology and supportive. So that result fed into an exercise which was piloted by NEPAD on behalf of the African Union. And in January this year, the Executive Council of the African Union made a decision, and on the slide you see the number and code of the decision, requesting the member states to build on drone technology for precision agriculture. So this is a continental policy recommendation, very important policy recommendation, and the full report was shared in Kigali at the Africa Innovation Summit in June this year, and you can use the link below to download the report, which is available in English and French. So this recommendation from the African Union supported and spurred further development of national legislations, putting also recommending the various national civil aviation authorities to keep an eye on agriculture, because agriculture is the core of the African economy, and this technology is meant to support the transition of the African agriculture to a digitally oriented agriculture. So what has CTA been doing in the domain of drones and agriculture? We launched this Africa-wide project called Transforming Africa's Agriculture, Eyes in the Sky, Smart Tech on the Ground. And so far, we have about 30 partner organizations who benefited from CTA support in different forms. Some of these organizations are really growing very fast. We have, for example, Charis, based in Rwanda, which opened an office a few weeks ago in Ivory Coast, and also Espace Géomatique, which is based in Burkina Faso, which is opening an office in Niger. So the trend is to expand. Obviously, those who are more market oriented, who knows how to move in this on these uncharted waters, perform better than others. But the general trend is quite positive. Um, we have recently administered a questionnaire among the members of this network, which is now formalizing as a form of a consortium called Africa Goes Digital. And you can follow Africa Goes Digital on Twitter, Facebook, and soon we are going to launch also a website. Okay, so the industry served by the members of the consortium are mainly agriculture. Surveying and mapping is also very important. And based on other statistics, survey and mapping is the main source of income for drone operators throughout the continent in general. And you see also other industries which are served and are important. The sectors, agriculture is on the top, surveying and mapping, followed by education, engineering, real estate. This is characteristic of this group, and I'm not pretending that this applies to all drone operators on the Africa continent, but this is what happens within our constituency. And the clients, main clients are agribusinesses, national government, international development organization. There is a big hype and big trend among development organization in adopting drone technologies. I recently saw a vacancy announcement by the African Development Bank, another one by the World Food Program. We see also FAO moving strongly on in the domain and so on. So now our partner organization are getting quite a number of contracts through these organizations and their projects. What is CTA doing in the framework of this project? We support capacity building. We invest a lot in terms of networking, helping operators to connect among each other and to connect with potential customers. And we involve private sector. So we have done partnerships with Parrot. Parrot is the largest drone producer in Europe. Erinov, we are working also with other multinationals to try to assist our partner organization to access equipment, software, and know-how at the preferential rates. And we try to document cases. At CTA, we have a strong publication unit, and we frequently get in touch with our partner organization looking for stories, trying to document that. And we assist also our partners through our social media outlets and promote their activities and their achievements. CTA has a strong background in publications, and now we are more on e-publications. In the past, we were printing everything. Now we are all on digital, and all our publication can be downloaded from our websites. So the drone community is present on Twitter, Facebook, and on D groups. These are the links. And D groups is a community of about 1,000 people from about 120 countries. And there we discuss issues, questions, and technologies related to drones for agriculture in developing countries. So that's my presentation, and it took me 24 minutes. So it was a bit shorter than foreseen, so we have more time for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Now we open the floor for questions. As you are typing in your new questions, I have a few questions I captured during the presentation. The first one is, first two are from George. He asked that, are there any case studies where drones have been used together with robots, especially for plant disease detection and spraying in agriculture?
Not as far as I know in Africa. For sure, in the West, in the States, in Europe, data, georeference data, highly accurate georeference data generated through drone technology can be transferred to tractors, to other units, which may be man-led or not, to execute tasks. So this is something which is on the move in Europe. I know that John Deere is working on that, and other big companies. So it is something which is on the move. I don't think whether this will lead to the loss of jobs and so on, but yeah, it will become a reality in the future.
Thank you. And Charles has a question: is if you want to fly a drone, where do you get a license from? I would link this again with Dennis' question in terms of training for drone pilots. Is there a website for such trainings?
Okay, depends on where you are. You in some countries, for example, I just give you the example of Uganda, which I know quite well. You can't land at the airport with a drone and hope to pass the control with your drone. Your drone will be confiscated. Because there is no legislation, and the legislation currently says, okay, your drone is going to be impounded until you clear it, and it will take you 4 to 6 months to clear it. Okay. Assuming you are based in Europe, or in a country or in South Africa, or in a country where there is legislation, you have to look at the legislation. The legislation is usually available through the National Civil Aviation websites. In Europe, you have a site which is called dronerules.eu, okay, where you find the regulations in all EU languages for all countries. And if it is for recreational use, you can fly. You don't have any need for any license, provided your drone is under a certain weight, okay, and you fly within areas where you have a permission to fly. There are in many countries you have maps in Europe and in the West, where you can see where you are authorized to fly and where it's forbidden to fly. It is forbidden to fly except if you have authorization from the concerned authorities, close to airports, close to highways, close to railways, close to strategic buildings, government facilities, military areas. There you can't fly. But otherwise, you can fly without a pilot license. Again, assuming that the weight of the drone is below a certain number of kgs, and that you respect all other conditions. If you fly to earn money, if you are a commercial drone operator, you need a pilot license. And as I was saying, in Africa, at the moment, there are only licensed and authorized schools in South Africa. In Europe, you can find them, as far as I know, in every country that you can find schools. and you just Google for drone school, and you will find the resource.
Thank you. There's another question from Ugo. He would like to know if you are aware of any methodology or statistical sampling developed for livestock sensors using drones. The aim being to count the number of different livestock. So using drones for livestock. Can I also link this question with the Salim's, who says, what about the use of drone in animal production, pasture managing, and graze control? I thought you could answer
Yeah,
this.
I see this question. Well, as far as I know, the technology allows to do that because with high resolution imagery, you and analytical software, uh, you can detect differences, and if you have the right algorithm, you can identify the livestock, for example, okay, and the distribution. The count function, once you have that done, it's possible. I'm not aware of that, but I'm sure that if you ask the question at the community, which I was mentioning before, via allow me to type the URL. So if you register on this community, then you can ask the question, and I'm sure you will get somebody who will tell you, yes, we have done it, and here is the methodology. The point is that there is a lot of work going on right and left, and people are reluctant to share or don't share, or there are no avenues, no channels where all this kind of information is meant to be shared. So when we set up this community at uav4ag.org, that was the purpose. And usually if somebody is asking who's working on bananas and drone technology, you will get a reply. And I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, it would be very interesting to read the replies to the question concerning livestock.
Thank you. And then there's an interesting question from Vasilis. He asked, are drone-based solutions affordable for African farmers?
Well, that's a key question. Who is the African farmer? Are we talking about large scale? The answer is yes. Are we talking about medium scale? Few hundred a farmer having few hundred hectares of orange, of a fruit orchard, and so on. The answer is probably yes. When it comes to small scale farmers, that's the issue. The small scale farmer will never fly a drone. But the small scale farmer may be part of a cooperative, of an agribusiness, or be an outgrower, and so on. And here is the conclusion to which we came. If a small scale farmer is working in parallel to other smallholders growing the same crop in the same area, then the agribusiness or the outgrower company can hire a drone operator to deliver the services which then they will use to advise the farmer. So, for example, a member of a cooperative is paying a membership fee, and that membership fee could include the advisory provided through a drone operator, which would be an intermediary. All our partner organizations are technology intermediaries. They are companies which provide advice to, for example, agribusinesses. And the agribusinesses in turn pay for this advice and then provide it as support within the framework of the support package they usually deliver to their members.
Thank you. Another question, which is, I mean, this is more resource-based. Do you have research-based technology in managing transboundary pests like fall arrowworm? Have drones been used to manage transboundary pests?
Pests,
Yes, pests like fall arrowworm.
Ah, the $1 million question. Well, I think that a lot of people are working on how to detect the infestation at early stage. Um, uh, there is no, as far as I know, nobody has a ready answer yet. I know that drone technology can help in responding to alerts of infestations very fast, and can help monitor the outbreak. But as far as I know, on fall armyworm, there is yet no means to detect the infestation at early stages, to be able to minimize the impact.
Thank you. And then Ibrahim is asking a question. In the absence of a drone license in some parts of Africa, can smallholders, farmers benefit from satellite assessment based on validations with drone findings from elsewhere? I mean, has this been done somewhere?
I didn't get the question.
The question is that since in most countries in Africa they don't have license, how can smallholder farmers benefit from drone findings from elsewhere? I don't know whether this is possible.
No, you can't benefit from. No, you need a provider in the country flying on the top of your crop to get a crop diagnostic. Of course, we can learn, because data which are interpreted using drones, and there is quite some work which is done in trying to feed results of an analysis done on drone generated imagery with resolutions of 2 centimeters, 1 centimeter, 5 centimeters, to satellite imagery. Okay, so to allow satellite imagery to be interpreted in a more precise and diversified way. Okay, so this is now going on. So in that sense, then I can answer the person in saying that satellite generated imagery supported by accurate imagery, more accurate imagery uh, captured using drones, can be more informative and hence lead to interpretations also of farmers who don't benefit from drone technology directly.
Thank you. There is another user who asked a question, but it sounds straightforward. I might answer it. In assembling of drones, is it allowed in Africa from China or Japan? I think this is also a regulatory framework, whether you can produce a drone or manufacture a drone. I don't know whether you have comments on this one. I mean,
Well, a lot of you can find the Chinese drones. I mean, I've seen there are operators flying spraying drones in Zambia, and now they are trying to secure a market. I know that they fly, they do demonstrations and so on. And from what I see on Twitter, they are getting some contracts also on sugarcane, on some of the crops. I think it's fundamentally it's a new market which is evolving, which is growing. And I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of years we would have a similar phenomenon like we had in the past decade with mobile phones. The only problem is that if you have many drones, millions of drones flying around, that the security of the skies may be compromised by people who don't respect the rules and who are flying in areas where they are not supposed to fly. And then there is an issue, a big issue of privacy, of disturbing people, but privacy is a big issue. When you fly, you should have the permit to fly on a certain area by the people occupying the area or the owners of the area. And if you take high resolution imagery, RGB imagery, then you have to be aware that you need prior informed consent if you film property, if you film or take pictures of individuals. So these are big issues, which are also part of the regulations which are put in place. And then you have also other regulations and laws governing privacy and data management, and all that is playing out. And as a drone operator, you should be aware of all these kind of legislations.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Sorry, I'm just seeing the question. Is assembling drones allowed in Africa? The answer is yes. You can order via the internet parts of drones and assemble them. There is no problem in assembling drones. I know that there are, in Ghana, we had recently some of the organization we work with who trained young people in assembling drones. I know that it happens also in Cameroon, in Zambia, and so on. Why not? I mean, the point is then flying the drone. You can assemble the drone. There is no problem in assembling a drone. The problem is then flying the drone.
Good. Wow, that is interesting. Any other burning questions from our participants? We seem to have exhausted most of your questions. Give them a few minutes to type.
I see that somebody is stating that there is a company in Ghana who has the technology for counting animals and repelling birds. I'm interested in that.
That's a very interesting company.
Ghana is a case worth mentioning, because Ghana, the law says that if you fly a drone without permission for commercial purposes, you get 24 years in prison. Okay. But said that the legislation is not as strict as in South Africa, and to get a permit to fly a drone in Ghana is much simpler than compared to other countries. So, and in fact, in Ghana, you have, I know about 5 commercial drone operators. There are probably more yet there. But just to give you the dimension of the problem on the continent, I just make a comparison. I mean, in South Africa was the first country which passed a regulation about 2.5 years ago. Yeah, three years ago. And at the same time, the regulations were passed in the UK. Based on data I received mid of this year, in South Africa, there were 21 licensed commercial drone operators. In the UK, at the same time, you had 4,500. So the issue is the bottleneck are the regulations, okay? Because there are so many educated young people who would like to open up a company and deliver this kind of services. But the regulations are the bottleneck, okay? And now I think things are evolving. Also, the decision by the African Union is going to contribute, and also all the investment done by the various development agencies in supporting the careful and responsible use of drones in agriculture on the African continent.
Thank you. That was very interesting. There's a question from Budapest, from Pavel. Are there any efforts or advancements in making software or analytical tools for remote sensing using drones more available for farmers?
Well, there are a few software packages which you can install on very powerful computers, and they are pretty expensive. We are talking about $4,000 to $5,000 a license. And then you can also use cloud-based services for analyzing data. Likewise, drones, the prices are going to go down because of competition. Okay, A drone which was costing $20,000 3 years ago would cost $8,000 now. The craft themselves, the cost is going down. What is still constant or less subject to competition are the sensors, because there is less competitions. And but the price and cost of drones for agriculture is meant to go down, like the cost of laptops. I mean, 10 years ago, what was the cost of a laptop? Now you can buy a laptop, a good laptop, for 300-400 US, and 10 years ago it was 10 times more. So technology is the cost of technology goes down, and the technology is improving. I have one I have one small drone which has detect and avoid radars. I mean, meaning that if I would like to crash it against the wall, it won't go against the wall because it has radars right and left, and it's controlling where it flies. There are now softwares which are called geofencing softwares, which are linked to databases which instruct the drone where to fly and where not to fly, so reducing the risk of pernicious use of drones. So technology is evolving very fast, and it's difficult to keep track of all the novelties. But in parallel, the costs are going down.
Okay.
I'm just seeing the question from Khan. Are there no, free software packages for building elevation maps, 3D models? Ask the community. Somebody will come up and tell you that.
There is some question from Ayala. I think this is specific for you. They want support in some specific area. I'll send this to you. And also another question. Okay.
Where is Ayala?
Ayala. Okay. Here it is. Olba Ayala. We appreciate the invitation and congratulations for the presentation. We want to know if Giacomo can guide us with the name of scientific journals where you can send results of software research that analyzes drone images taken by RGB images taken by drone, which predicts protein, milk, and others. So I think it's a specific request they have.
Albert, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry.
And then the presentation, we will share the recording. You will have the recording. I think some of the questions could be sent to the community, which we will send. And then specific one. Okay, there's this one, free software packages for building elevation maps on 3D.
I replied to that. I suggested to ask the community. I remember that the same question was asked by somebody, and there was an answer to that. But you can ask again.
Okay. Okay, how can one collaborate with you to develop more interest in drones in areas of work? I think you have given the communities where people can join in your presentation and where they can interact, right? Unless you want to add more.
There is a question by Michele Bolognesi, a compatriot, an Italian as well, about Kenya. Michele, the regulations in Kenya are funny. I mean, at a certain point they approved them, and then KCCA was bragging, we have the regulations in place, you can apply, and so on. And later on, the regulations were suspended, and I think they are back for discussion in Parliament. So I don't know. I don't know what the games are there. The reality is that using drones in Kenya is still a challenge.
Okay.
But if you have the opportunity to interface with the people at the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, bring to their attention the decision of the African Union, because this is a high-level continental recommendation by the body which is advising all African governments. So they should take that into consideration.
Okay. I'm still trying to see, but most of them are comments. Also, another one, a possibility to work with you in offering drone services in Tanzania? I think
Tanzania, we have a couple of partner organizations in Tanzania. If you go on Twitter, and look for the list, within the account of Africa Goes Digital, there is an option you look list, and on the list you see all partner organizations within the consortium, and there are two which are based in Dar es Salaam, and you can interface with them.
Okay. It seems that we have. Let's see if we have another question. Somebody has answered about the open source software to check.
Yeah,
the
that's good.
That's very good. I think we have, I don't know about you, but I feel like we have exhausted most of the burning questions. I don't know whether you have any other comments, Giacomo.
Well, I think there is a lot of hype about the technology. People are expecting a lot. When you put a drone on a table, you will have people immediately going there. If you have a drone in your hands, you will have people coming and talking to you. It's unbelievable how people are attracted by these devices. In one sense, it's a positive, because if you have a business and offer drone services, you can really be a magnet of interest, but you have to be responsible and use this potential to its best. So my message is the technology is new. There are many challenges to deploy it in African countries, but there are huge opportunities. So give it a try if you're interested, if you have skills. Remember that if you want to serve the agricultural sector, you need a basket of skills. You can't do that alone. You need piloting skills, you need remote sensing skills, you need agronomic skills. And if your company doesn't have all these skills in-house, you can partner with other organizations and complement each other to provide comprehensive services.
Thank you so much. We'd like to thank all our participants and also the resources that you are sharing. We are documenting them, and we will try to share them in our respective networks. We'd like to thank you all for responding to this call. The link to the recording is going to be sent to all those that have registered. If you haven't registered and you just participated and got the link somehow, you can send us an email. I am sending you the email now on the chat box so that you receive the updates. We thank you, Giacomo. We thank you, everybody. And unfortunately, time is not on our side. We have to end this webinar now. Thank you very much all for your participation.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk, and see you again. Bye.
Bye.